Good morning, everyone. My name's Doc, and welcome to episode 5 of The Rounds. Today, I'm super excited to speak with the one and only Pierre Crypto. Pierre is someone who I like to respectfully refer to as the grandfather of trend trading. He's someone who myself and many other traders have modeled parts of their systems behind. He's also one of the most disciplined traders that I've come across, and in my opinion, one of the top educators in our space. You can find him mentoring in the Haven alongside many other powerhouse traders. So without further ado, Pierre, thank you for coming on. Welcome to The Rounds.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Doc. It's a pleasure. Thanks for the nice intro. I don't know if we can say I'm the grandfather of trend trading, but yeah, I've been trying to do my best at the very least for a few years now in the market. It feels quite crazy to say so, to be honest, because it feels like I joined yesterday. But yeah,
For myself and many other people, man, we look up to you and we go, hey, man, that's the guy that we learned from, and it's important because crypto is this volatile, like parabolic market asset class where many people want to be in on the ground floor and don't really have a system for, hey, well, this coin already pumped 10%, 20%, 30%. How do I manage my risk along the way? And I think people who found kind of the EMA or trend trading system are very thankful for that. So yeah. That's why I come to you, because I found it from you.
Yeah, I know it's been nice. It's been very interesting because there were a lot of people you could see and feel the change in meta in terms of technical analysis in crypto Twitter through the years. Like, for example, we've had a big era of the classic PA, ICT PA, mostly influenced during the 2016, 2018, 19. And we've seen more and more people implementing more classic and simple system like the one I've been using. I have never invented anything. It's only a couple of horizontal levels and moving averages to smoothen the chart. But it's been nice. It's something we noticed, especially with Krillin and Dentoshi, for example,
Yep.
with whom I've been discussing systems and trades for a few years now. And it's been nice to see more and more people join and in many ways perfect the system and actually use it much better than I can actually do. I'm thinking of people like Trader Mercury, for example, who has been absolutely nailing Bitcoin for the past 2 years at the very least. So and you, of course, that we've seen especially popping up during the last year or so, I would say. At least that's the moment I actually noticed your accounts. So yeah, it's been fun to see. It's been nice to witness.
Yeah, man. It's funny, the two names you mentioned, Trader Mercury and Dentoshi, there have been previous guests on the
Yeah.
podcast too. And yeah, man, I came to them for the exact same reason. I was like, look, me and you, and we kind of share the same kind of market ideology. I'd love to like pick your brain and talk about it a little bit. So kind of a cool follow up here. Yeah. And one thing I want to mention is I think Krillin doesn't get enough credit. He's not super active on CT anymore, I feel like,
Yeah, less. Yeah.
so I feel like he deserves a lot more credit than he gets nowadays too. Not a lot of people give Krillin the clout and the props that he deserves.
For me, in many ways, Krillin is the next step of the trader I could become with more discipline and more and a better mindset trader, I would say. In many ways I do feel like Krillin is the evolution of what I could become in the next couple of years if I keep working. Because in many ways he perfected the system. He's a much more methodologic. I don't know if it's an English word, but it's much more. Is in many ways just better at that system, and in many ways also he's been. I mean, we crafted that system together. Most of it, I would say, with many other lads from the 2017 era. I'm thinking about people like Mac, Muro. People have been discussing markets for almost 7 years now. But yeah, it's with Krillin that I've been working the most, sharing the most setups, and I do feel like we've seen a little bit less of him over the last year or so, because mostly of the Twitter algo. Because when you're not verified, you see less of people. But he's actually been I've actually been slaying stonks and Stratfy for the past year, alongside crypto, of course. But yeah, I do believe that in many ways, the mastermind and the best people to apply the system in both lower time frames and higher time frames trades. Definitely Krillin.
Yeah, we need to get him. We need to get him the blue badge. We need to
Yeah,
get him on.
he has one now. I
Oh,
think
he
it's
does.
yeah. He ended up going for it. Uh, I think last week or so because it just helps too much with. I mean, it's fine not to be. It's fine if the blue check makes you in front of people in terms of algo, but if it's actually a net negative not to be blue checked,
Yeah.
considering the price, sadly we are still kind of. I mean, you kind of need to have some exposure still on CT, especially we have the Haven running. It's important for us to still have some presence. But we also, I mean, it's also what we've been doing for years now, since 2017. All of us have been sharing content on Twitter. So no reason to, I mean, at the very least, it's nice to make it the best experience possible.
Yeah, man. So you said a bunch of things there that I have questions about. One thing you said interesting is like you said, Krillin is the next step for you, right? So for me, that's super interesting because you've been in the markets for many years now. I don't know how long have you been trading? At least 5-6 years, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've been in crypto since 2017, but one could say seriously and like taking things to a real level, I would say end of 2019, 2020 was quite
Gotcha.
the breakthrough. But I've been only trading full time, like fully dedicated to the market since mid 2021, basically. So it's in crypto, it's like 20 years of experience. It kind of
Yeah,
feels,
definitely. Yeah.
especially over the past few years where we've basically witnessed some absolutely madness. But I would say that in like trading way, in a sense of living off of trading and adding pressure of having this as a main source of income, more to 2022, end of 2021. So not that long, to be honest, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And
still it's crypto, so it kind of feels like more, but yeah.
and the trading journey, as I like to say, is like a kind of a never-ending journey. You never
Oh
really
yeah.
kind of make it. Every day it's kind of like eat what you kill, and there's no job security, right? You
But
have
for me,
to keep
that's
earning it every
for
day.
me that has always been the main motivation. I've always been and I do feel like it's something most of the great traders I know, or at least the one that have been surviving all these years, share in common, is that I've always had a strong appetite for tryharding, basically, and for everything that involves training, and where you kind of feel like even as much as you train, you never get to the next level.
Yeah.
Before crypto, I've spent quite some time in sports first, and then into CS for at least a decade. And actually, it's something you can feel. I'm gonna use Krillan's example again, but he's a former very, very, very good StarCraft player, very good poker player, and most of these lads, all they share is that it's the constant grind and look for improvement. I do feel like, and yeah, I feel like it's a struggle in many ways, but it's also what's the most rewarding with crypto. When you do feel like you just breach to a new barrier, basically, which can be mentally or financially or whatever. But yeah, it kind of feels like lots of downs more than ups, but it's an interesting journey to be in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned sports and gaming because both of those require so much discipline. And as I said in the intro, you're one of the most disciplined traders that I've come across. Every time you present a trade idea, it's in a very long format. You share your entire thought process from high time frame to low time frame. You share the entry triggers, what you're looking for. You want all your parameters met, and I feel like you never cut corners. Right, trade after trade after trade, it's always the same amount of kind of due diligence for every single entry. And I wanted to ask you, and you already answered the question of like, did that come innately to you? Did you learn that? Was that a skill from a prior life? But I guess, sports and gaming brought that to trading, or is that something that like when you came to trading, you had this moment of, aha, okay, it is kind of the same as sports. And I do need to apply the same kind of mindset.
I
Was there something
think
like that for you?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of things shared in the two fields and in the two experiences, but I do feel like the discipline I have today when it comes to trading and looking for setups is just something that I can't. It's something that I realized compared to sport and maybe CS or any other fields that I was playing in. Is that it's not like I had much of a choice anyway. Like you not everyone is a very talented traders. You have some people in the market who can feel the market, who can feel momentum, who know when to size harder, to downsize, know when to play, not to play, and they can do that just kind of a feeling. Like I'm thinking about people like Loma, like CBS, who are very much um, gut feeling trader, I would say. For me, I quickly realized that if I'm not if I'm not simplifying my approach to the most simplest approach possible and try to respect it as much as I could, I wouldn't just I wouldn't I would just not make it in the market. Like it's not so, it's kind of something that you have to do anyway. Unless if you're a mid curve trader like I am, you just have no choices to be extremely disciplined because you basically want to reduce as much as possible chances to fuck things up.
Yep.
And the truth is that if most of my trading system setups and trade ideas are so detailed and so complete, I would say it's also because it's a way for me to respect the setup whenever I'm in and respect the invalidation, because I have the entire thought process laid out, meaning that it it should be easier to follow. It should
Gotcha.
be, should is the important word, because we all know that it's good to have a very good plan, but then the execution that comes in hand is usually a much different story. So for me, the discipline part of my system is just something that I can't afford to do anyway, any other way, to be honest. Like if I want to survive in the market, I need to continue being as disciplined in my system, in my setups, so that I can ease the execution. I would say it makes me a better trader just to be more disciplined, basically. But I know it's not a truth for everyone. I know some people who are very much more in flow with the market. But I would say that it's the realization, the brutal truth of you're not special in the market, and you're gonna have to be as simple and as disciplined as possible if you want to make it, basically.
Right, exactly. And I've asked a bunch of people the exact same question of like, how important is discretion for you? And I asked Mercury and Motif, and they both said, no, I'm extremely strict with the system. I know that if I start applying my own thoughts, I'm only going to detract from my own P&L. Right? They were very honest and open about that. I think you kind of mirror that sentiment there.
Well,
And there's
yeah,
other people that I've spoken to, like Schmosby and Dentoshi, that go, yeah, I do add discretion. I do want to take things into my own hands sometimes. Like I asked Antoshi if she likes to knife catch. She's like, yeah, of course. I do want to speculate on bottoms. I want to do these kind of things because I think it's more fun, right? But
yeah,
at the end of the
true.
day, like trading, as she said, and this is her quote, she said, trading is a mirror. Your innate personality kind of comes out on the chart. And trading is such this like personal solo experience. You really get to know yourself as a person as
Oh, yeah,
well,
true.
and find your own innate weaknesses and strengths and kind of apply that to your system. So if you feel like, well, I'm the kind of guy that, I'm going to get distracted. And if I try to apply my own thoughts, I may fuck things up. Then
Yeah.
you focus more on the systematic. And if you're the other way and you're like, no, I'm loose, I'm free flowing, I'm in tune with the market, then you kind of lean towards the discretionary. I think that's a beautiful
Yeah,
thing. Everyone kind of attacks the market in a different way.
I agree with you. However, what I would say on that part is that I think I'm very disciplined when it comes to looking for the entry, looking for the invalidation, and sticking to it. But I feel like especially when you're mostly focused on shitcoins, and when you do a lot of trend following and narrative rotations, for example, I do feel like there is a very strong um, component of gut feeling and discretion in what alts you're gonna pick, in when you plan your entries,
Right.
in the dynamic you have between Bitcoin and alts in the market, in which context we are on what direction you should be more focused than the rest, which can not necessarily be said fully by just technicals and system. And that's where I feel like you need to find the right balance between applying the system, respecting the system, trying not to fuck things up whenever you enter a position, but also having the experience and gut feeling to be focused on the good things at the right time,
Yep.
which I believe it's I think it's a balance to have between the two. but also in the execution. Like I'm gonna, like for example, if we've been looking at the Bitcoin chart recently, most of the approach, and I think it's pretty much been the same for you, has been to be focused on H4 trend as high as it can get.
Yep.
But if I was only applying that blindly, I would have exited on the first two breaches of the H4 trend. And it's the kind of example, something I've been discussing for the past few days on CT, where you actually need some gut feeling and to decide, okay, do I want to consider that as a sufficient reason to exit, or do I want to let it a little bit develop, see if bears are actually showing up or not?
Yep.
So the more and more I feel the more I'm feeling in sync with the market, the more I can allow myself some discretion on the trades.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it's something that I've been developing more this year compared to the past few years, and I do feel like it's being fully dedicated to the market that has been allowing that more and more.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful because like I asked you earlier on that you've been in the market for so many years. So it's really cool to hear someone that's, multiple years in, still learning and still adding the system and still adding discretion. And I think that comes from experience. Like you said, if you're purely systematic on those H4 trend losses, you probably would have cut maybe a few years ago, not to put words in your mouth, but
100%.
I would imagine, right? And now you're like, okay, I've seen so many reps of this. I know there's fake outs. I know the environment that we're in, and you're taking multiple, experience-based factors and adding that to your system.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's important when you are in a year like we've just had, where most rallies in the market have been led by Bitcoin, because whenever you have Bitcoin leading and you're a shitcoiner, it's even more important than it is than the rest of the time to be focused on good shitcoins, because if you're doing shitcoinery on a Bitcoin-led rally, you may as well try to be focused on the very few good shitcoins who are going to bigly outperform Bitcoin. And understanding this dynamic, and that it's this dynamic and not another one that is in play, is I believe what makes the difference between someone that kind of gets bullied trading shitcoins in wrong conditions and gonna be chasing laggards, being long, hoping for strength instead of chasing strength, I would say. So yeah, it's a mix of all of that, but again, nothing fancy, nothing like I always say that, but there is nothing alpha in the way I trade. It's a very simple way of seeing the market. It's just applying things we've seen for years until it doesn't work anymore. And when it doesn't work, it probably means it's time to back off.
Right.
And that's pretty much it about it. That's why I think many people actually enjoy the system and the content I produce, because it's not hidden behind sometimes it can be read. Sometimes you can feel like I'm I'm afraid to say the wrong word in English, but sometimes it does feel like I'm complexifying things a little bit. But it's just because of the way we speak in trading. But it's most of the time really straightforward. Like, lose the confluence of that, and that's it. You're out, basically.
I'll give you an example. So I said this, I did a thread last year, and I included you in the thread and being like, well, Pierre could give you entry, trigger, stop loss, etc., and you're still going to find a way to fuck it up, right? Because you need the experience, you need the reps, you need to be in it multiple times to understand what you're looking for. And I learned to play from you, the gap fill plays, right? And let me pull up the screen right now, and I'm going to share one that I
have the perfect example if you want on the weekly DXY chart.
I just want to share this one because I brought this one up to you, right?
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was like, hey man, what do you think about SUI, right? It's been in this huge, daily downtrend forever, right? We've got a reclaim, and then we're starting to trade above it, right? And I don't know if you responded or not, but I know you were in a bunch of other banger trades at the time. So you're probably like, oh, I've had plenty of exposure. I don't want to deal with this one. And you know what I dealt with for like 2 weeks with this chop? And these candles are like 8-10%, right? And I'm sitting in here and I'm going, man, Pierre, I don't know how he knew, but he knew that this is not a coin that he wanted. And I actually sat in this for weeks, even though the setup was there. And I chopped myself up for a little bit until I was like, look, I know it's there. I'm just going to switch to spot. So I wanted 100%. To ask you, was there something out there that made you go, look, even though the setup is there, I just want to ignore SUI for a little bit?
Yeah, well, I just pulled the SUI chart, and as you can see, I had the
years.
gap fill you mentioned played out basically. So it
Hmm.
was reclaim of the daily trend, fill the gap to daily 100 MA. I mean,
Right.
that's basically the basics. And then broke out, came for the retest perfectly next to the next gap. The main thing that made me not play with Sui, even if you had this shaping up, was mostly that in the current market conditions, I try to be focused mostly in terms of capital allocation to shitcoins who are already in daily to
Strong one.
H4 uptrend. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Strong
gonna use the obvious play that I've been focused on lately. Uh,
INJ, man. What a monster.
yeah, this one has been absolutely nonsense, but it's a good example because as much as Sui was looking great and was looking like something that could reverse and fill a gap to daily 100 MA,
Yeah.
I knew that I had something that was moving faster and already in an basically the Sui play was based on a daily trend reversal, while the ING play was a H4 trend continuation
Right.
with already the momentum, knowing that you're gonna have people focused on it basically. So that doesn't it doesn't mean I was not expecting Sui to move nicely, and it did, and it's been pumping very well, and it's still pumping nicely, and it's shaping up quite incredibly. But it was just me telling myself, if I have to have some money allocated to shitcoins, even if I know that this one could do well, I'm expecting this one to do just better in terms
Yeah.
of respecting the system mostly. Because as you said on Sui, for example, you've had days of volatility, which I believe if we go on lower time frame resulted in some
Those are
H4
tough.
trend. Yeah,
Those are tough
exactly. Because
shakeouts. Yeah.
basically, if you were focused on H4 200 EMA, you were nice and it gave plenty of entries. But if you were basing off of H4 trend, you could have many opportunities to get bullied basically.
Yeah.
So it was more it was more a reason of I'd
So
already been riding.
basically just take the easy trade. Keep
For
it
me it's
simple.
pretty much that. Yeah, it's pretty much, and there is a trade that I took in 2021 that made me forever only focused on leaders, and it was the uni and sushi trade in
Hmm.
early 2021. So basically what happened is that you had uni that just came out with an air. It was one of the very first popular airdrop because it was like 3k USD at the beginning of bull market, and everyone was pretty happy about it. And then you had sushi that came out and that probably and pumped quite nicely. And I was long in uni expecting some catch up, seeing sushi pumping. I mean, I can pull the chart from 2021, but it was pretty madness. I think it was first semester of 2021. Yeah, as you can see, it was from November 2020 to Jesus to
Insane.
March. It basically did from 0.1550 up to 23. And in that same time, uni did some nice things, but like absolutely not comparable to what, because basically uni was from 10 to 40, while sushi went from 0.5 to 23.
Insane.
And I remember it's probably one of the worst memories of trading I've had because it felt like everything was right in the sense of technically it was looking great. You had the narrative, you have sushi pumping, and in the end, it was nice trade, but kind of felt and kind of traumatized me in sense of um, inefficient money allocation, I would say, in shitcoinery, which is not an easy thing to do, but it's something that's stuck in mind for me ever since. And now I basically only and mostly trade the leaders in the market.
Yeah.
Like if we look at rapidly on the Aven, the trades I have getting is Link, Sol, and ING mostly still.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's been mostly that, just
I
trying to minimize the amount of shitcoins I'm focused on, but riding them as good as I can do. And as you can see on this ING trade, you have a few compounding setups. You could actually have the next one preparing right now, but that's for another thing.
I see. I have the same one. I have the same alert that you're looking at. I'm waiting for that one as well.
Yeah, but that's the ideal development. It's still developing. We'll see if it pops up as nicely as the last ones.
Yeah. Um, what you mentioned about trading the strong coins, I think that's very difficult for anyone new to crypto to
Yeah.
submit to. And
Oh
you
yeah.
just mentioned you had your moment with Uni and Sushi. I had my moment last year during the merge rally.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and, and there was
etc.
moments where altcoins did really well. ETC, yeah, ETC. I think Chili's did really well for a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah, the football
right?
tokens with the World Cup.
Yeah, yeah, and those are phenomenal moves back then, and I
Yeah.
was kind of the mid-curve guy that was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna wait for SFPs, and I'm gonna get my 3R setup, right? And I'm gonna get this setup." And I was thinking, and it really hit me that time where I go, "These guys are riding 40% moves, and I'm fading a 3% move at the top. What am I doing?" Like,
Yeah.
and I'm in crypto to capture those moves. Why am I being on the opposite end, right? And it worked well for me at the time. I was, my portfolio was growing, but I'm like, I'm not here just to perform. I'm here to outperform. I'm here to do
Yeah.
really well, right? And that's where I came across you actually, because I was like, you and CBS were crushing last summer. And then again in I think October
Yeah,
last year, like
exactly.
the
Yeah.
Halloween rally.
It was
Yeah,
actually the first legs on the ING that we caught, like the one from from $1 to $3 or something. That was the first ING trades last year.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the it was like Dogecoin too,
Oh
like
yeah,
Dogecoin pumping. Yeah,
with
those were phenomenal.
Mask
Yeah,
and Doge with the entire Elon and Twitter narrative.
yeah. And that's really where my whole like trend trading journey started, because I was like, look, man, these guys are killing it. I don't know where else to find, because like the only other people were like Awawat and
Yeah,
APG. They're
Awawat is
monsters.
Awawat is probably one of the best accounts on CT to follow when it comes to
Finding strong
narrative
points. Yeah,
trends and being able to focus on the right coins.
yeah.
He is a very very good trend trader. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and that I mean, that's where like I was looking across. I was like, who can I learn from? And finding you guys, I'm like, dude, I have CBS and Pierre in the same place. Like, I should go learn from them. So I went to the Haven, and I was like blown away. You have libraries, like you have your whole trading journal in there, and
yeah,
I can, the market was pretty slow because I joined like November, and it was like FTX crashed,
yeah.
and vibes were bad,
Pretty
and there weren't
sad.
too many trades, right?
Some
But
pretty dark moments.
yeah, but the fun part was that I could go back in your like threads, and I could just
Yeah,
read your trade journals, and I could see your thought processes, and then I could pick your brain. And that really helped my development. And I've seen like tremendous growth in 2023 because of that. Like right off the yearly open, things started ripping. And years prior, I wouldn't have known how to get into Bitcoin. And I can still remember the exact trade and the exact date. It was like January 6th, there was a weekend pump on Bitcoin.
exactly,
Yeah, and
exactly.
it
The
was
H4
very,
trend reclaim.
yeah, H4 trend reclaim, and it
This
then it
one
flipped the H4 200, and I'm like, it's go
exactly
time.
over here. It
Yeah,
was the first time. It was basically the first time since the FTX crash and that we had entire AMA structure, H4 trend flipped, H4 200 EMA flipped. And it was the first rally of the year where a single H4 trend delivered. I think it was a
yeah,
35% move or something. Yeah,
incredible.
37.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was that
And
was that was
those are
nice.
the those are like the key contextual clues for finding strength in markets, and it's so simple. It's just some like squiggly lines, but having a
Yeah,
system to get you into play. Because I remember so many people were caught off guard. They were sidelined. They didn't know how to get in, and I was feeling like I was feeling good about myself. I was like, okay, I'm in. I know how to get in, and we're riding the trend.
but that's because I think that's because what's nice about that system, that approach, is that if it's good to show when there is at least first glimpse of a trending environment, it's just
Mhm.
as good to show when it's not. So basically when you should and shouldn't be aggressive in the market or not.
Right.
And I think it's also a very good way to remove. I mean, you will never be able to remove your bias on the market, no matter what you want to do, no matter as much as you want to be called a cold-blooded trader or whatever. You're always gonna have some bias about the market. It's a cognitive bias. You just can't fight it. But there is one thing I learned in being in this market for some time, is that there is nothing more costly than being stuck in a bias and being and
Mm,
not being curious and not being open to any kind of scenarios, basically. And it's not only true to shitcoinery, but it's mostly true to shitcoinery, because it's important to know when not to overthink the market. it's important to embrace dumb narrative, even if they're dumb. You don't care. You're not here to win a Nobel Prize. You're here to make money.
Exactly.
And I do feel like it's something I've said 100 times last year, mostly on Bitcoin, because everyone was asking me, where do you think the bottom's gonna be? Where are you looking to buy? And I kept repeating, I don't know where, I know when. And when is going to be when we finally get a daily trend flip, which on H4 is basically a H4 200 EMA reclaim. And that's what triggered the long early January on Bitcoin. That's what actually triggered the long in 27 at the beginning of this rally. Almost the exact same setup than in January, basically. So yeah, I think it's. I think that's also why it works great also with shitcoins. It's because it's pretty much agnostic to where we are. It's mostly based on trends, meaning that I'm gonna have absolutely zero problem buying something that is already up 10 times if that means it's still in uptrends, basically, while I know plenty of people are going to be mentally paralyzed by doing so. And I know that because for years it's something I've been struggling with a lot. That's actually how I ended up with a trending system, basically, because in the early years of trading, I was overthinking every entries, which makes sense when you get absolutely smashed by the market at the end of bull market. In 2018, I pretty much lost it all. So I guess the PTSD was real. And I needed to find a system that I could follow that pretty much erased that, and that pretty much erased that thought that says, I'm not going to buy that. It's up so much. Like, yeah, okay, but if you thought that way, you wouldn't be buying ING in $7-8 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because it was already up 7 times this year. You should not care about that. You should just care about where you enter, where you exit. It doesn't matter if it's 10 times higher than it was.
I think what people struggle with is defining their risk along the trend.
Yeah.
That's the issue, because I say this to everyone that'll listen, is like, if you can't buy something that's pumped in crypto, you're not going to make it. There's always a coin that's pumped either 10%, 20%, 50%. It's done a 3x, right? For example, like I bought Pepe back in April. It had already done like a 10x.
Same. Yeah, same.
Yeah, it already did a 10x, and then it did another 20x afterwards, right?
Yep.
So, you have to have, whether it's EMAs, whether it's VWAPs, whether it's momentum, RSI, like there's so many ways to define your risk. But it serves you so well to define your risk, so that you can catch these moves and you're not just sidelined for the entirety of the thing.
Yeah, I think you need to. I don't know if it was Jim or CBS that was saying that once in a stream, but I think one of the two once said to me, it's important to know when you have to be as stupid as the market, basically.
Yep.
And I do feel like this system we are using is both helping to ape when you have to ape, but also to sense the first signal of weaknesses. And I do like the moves we've had on Bitcoin right now, because for me, I'm using that as an example, but I really like the move we've had on Bitcoin, because if things had to stop now and the H4 trend had to break and we were to lose significant levels and lose some momentum, it would basically mean that the exit and the invalidation of the trend is as close to the local top as it can be.
Yeah.
And it actually was the same thing with Bitcoin at the peak of the last bull market, because the peak of the last bull market ended at 61, 62K with a daily trend break, instantly flip resistance all the way down to 40K, basically.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, as you were saying, it helps to know when you should, when you should be bidding a retest, this one at 61K, at 58, 60K, while the trend is intact, while this one is probably not a good one to buy, for example.
Exactly.
And even if and that's something many members and maybe people have been asking me and ask me all the time is, but are you not afraid of being faked out, of being wicked out, or whatever? And the first answer is, I'm always worried about being faked out and wicked out. There is nothing you can do to prevent that. You can have a golden system. Nothing can prevent, nothing is pico precise, nothing is magical. You're going to have some moments where you're going to be uncertain when it comes to the system. That's when you're gonna have to be either overreactionary and take your profits, or cancel. And it's fine if you're wrong. Like, you still can re-enter later. It's fine. It's just trading. You're gonna find the other entries, or you're gonna have to be a little bit more fluid and discretionary, as you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the very interesting part of the system and the approach through the years, in my opinion, and the way it's been building.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned a little while ago, I don't want it to go unnoticed. You were saying, we're not here to win Nobel Prizes. We got to submit to anything.
Yeah.
And that's another beautiful lesson for people coming into crypto is like, it's really hard not to be mid curve. It's really hard to get over yourself and be like, no, I'm buying a good coin. This coin has good fundamentals. This coin is better than this coin, and just kind of submit to the coin that's moving, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The simpler, dumber, the never, the better. Exactly. The more people that can understand something, the better it'll pump, right?
100%. That's why the ETF narrative is good for Bitcoin. It's because it's one that we've already went through. It's one that is easy to understand. You just, even if it's not true, even if it's biased, even if it's technically incorrect and it's not going to play out the same way, you can sell the ETF narrative to someone just by showing the gold chart with whenever the first ETF was approved, and you can say, see, it's pumping whenever you have an ETF approved, and it lasts in time. The second component for a good narrative is if it can last in time, because basically the longer a narrative lasts, the better, because a narrative less market is a dead market. And it's actually what has been saving, in my opinion, Bitcoin this year. It's that we've got, what was terrible for Bitcoin in 2022 mostly was the lack of narrative. Nothing was going on. Nothing was basically everyone was just exiting the market or being liquidated or being bankrupted.
Yeah.
Especially the so-called smart money and big money. At least now I hope that everyone understands it's a fucking meme.
Yeah.
But the truth is that Bitcoin has been doing well this year because it had consecutive narratives that are easy to understand. Either it was ETF, either it was regional banks going bankrupt, reminding everyone that your monies are not actually fully your money. Things like this, like the AI narrative that we've had at the beginning of the year. None of these shitcoins have actually been delivering anything related to AI, or at least if they did, they are absolutely not recognized as major actors of the industry by any ways. Like, as much as I like shitcoins, Fed or Ocean or any of them, I don't know anyone working in AI knowing these projects. But still, they pump nicely because, AI narrative, AI in the name. That's as
Easy.
simple as it has to be. And
Yeah,
that's
and NVIDIA is going crazy, right?
Yeah, and some people were like, but it's a dumb narrative. Yeah, it's a dumb narrative. That's exactly what you want, mate. You want something that it's easily sold, and you just have to remember that it's a narrative. Just don't fall in love with it, but it's what you want when you trade shitcoins.
That was my biggest lesson last summer, was with Chili's in the World Cup. I was being that mid-curve guy of going, why is this coin has nothing to do with anything? Why is it pumping? Why is it? It doesn't matter. Like, this is gonna. And I kept thinking, I was like, this is gonna be such a great short. This is gonna be such a great. And I did nail the short when it came, but I felt so dumb. I was like, why am I missing all these easy longs along the way? And you only learn that through experience and going through it a few times and fading the wrong things. But I was that guy that was going, this is such a stupid narrative. Screw this. I don't want to long this coin.
Yeah.
But, great lessons. That the simpler, the dumber the narrative, the better. It's very, very well said.
And it's actually something I know very well, because something I've fought and struggled with a lot at the end of last bear market. Because I do feel like when it's, and especially if it's your first bear market, and when you still take things very seriously, I remember fading a lot of moves just because I was like, we just got out a year of bear market. This is absolutely nonsense and dumb, blah, blah, blah. The usual beer cup narrative, basically. And it took me some time to just accept that. I mean, it's something I've been discussing a lot on CT also, and it can be a little bit pretentious to say, but I do feel like it's a bigger part of a idiocracy investment narrative. And by that, I mean that, yes, maybe the market can be stupid in the way it moves and the narrative it pushes, and the shitcoins that are pumping or the stocks that are pumping of nothing. But even if that even if we all agree it's the case, what does it change trading wise? Like, what does it change
Exactly.
knowing that it's stupid? It's good if you're smart enough to know things are stupid, but if you don't do anything to make the best out of stupidity, what's the point of it? Like, just I know it's dumb as hell to see coins like EOS getting some traction sometimes, like BCH pumping just because BTC is bullish, blah blah blah. But we don't care if it's dumb or not. If you know it, if you're aware of it, and you can trade it, just make the best out of it. And the truth is that if you enter a narrative knowing it's a stupid one, you're probably gonna have much less worries and issues in terms of execution, because whenever the technicals and conditions are out, you're probably just going to exit and never think twice about it. Like, it's probably going to make your execution much better knowing that it's not something you should fall in love with. It's not like Bitcoin changing the world or ETH being the next supercomputer or whatever. It's just a shitcoin pumping off of a narrative. That should be what you chase, basically.
Well said. Well said.
And
So
you can feel someone that has been bullied for quite some time when I talk about that.
yeah, I think we all do. We all have to pay our dues to the market, right? We all have to learn the hard way.
Yeah,
Even I know there's people that are going to listen to this podcast and I hear me and you saying it. They're going to say, "Yeah, I know, but," right? They're
but
still going to argue in their mind and be like, "But," right?
the truth
And
is, yeah, sorry, I'm just interrupting you, but the truth is there is a but, and hopefully for the market there will be a but sometime, someday, something that actually has some use case and that actually has some legs to pump through the
yeah,
years, and maybe be the Amazon of crypto, and we are in the early 20s. Maybe you're right. Maybe at some point we're gonna have some actual solid narrative, and the market is going to split into different asset classes with the hardcore money and the rest, blah 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 blah. The truth is that we've had the opportunity to do so during last cycle and nothing was accomplished. So I think it's important to know that most narratives are stupid, and treat them like it.
yeah,
But as I said also earlier, it's important not to stay stuck in that. And if slash someday you actually have some narratives that pop off and lives off of through different cycles, and actually bring some use case and some users, it's going to be very important not to fade that neither. But that should be fairly easy to notice, because it's going to be a pretty big change in dynamics.
yeah.
So that's that. I think it's important to know that the simpler and dumber the narrative, the better. But don't turn yourself into everything stupid anyway. I don't know if you see what I mean, but
No,
it's a
I
bit of a battle between the two, in my opinion.
Yeah. And this is a perfect place to like kind of shift gears because, we're talking about probably the future of the industry. Could nice things occur? So I wanted to shift gears kind of like from the trading aspect to more of the investing side. Because I think where we are in the market is really interesting. A lot of people want to allocate to the market. Maybe they're stuck in cash. Maybe they don't have a plan. Maybe this hit them in the face by surprise. But I wanted to ask you, like in 2023, coming off of FTX, coming into this year, were you still kind of in a trader's mindset of like, well, I want to trade this market. I'm not sure we have time, or were you saying this is opportunity? I need to get somewhat invested into the market, and kind of like back off that idea of like, what advice would you give to someone right now if they wanted to get invested? How, like hypothetically speaking, you have 100% cash. What are you saying to someone with 100% cash at this moment?
Uh,
I know I asked you a lot of questions there.
no, it's an interesting question, but it's a complicated one, especially when you come out after 2 years of bear market, where I've been spending the last 2 years working on my trader um, work, on my trader walk, and what I do and feel, more than the investment. So it's a bit of a complicated thing, especially for me, because most of my trading is, and going into bull markets, is knowing that the best gains I'm going to make in the bull market probably is from shitcoins who don't even exist yet. And it's been true for 2 cycles now. But it's complicated again, because I have a very, very trading point of view, and it's normal because I have pretty much 15 hours per day to dedicate to the market. That's the only thing I do. So it's much easier for me to only have a trading perspective. But if you're looking for a more investment perspective and if you want to know on what to be focused, I think the first thing you can do is zoom out a little bit, which I believe is going to be the first advice most people are going to give you. Zoom out, map out important levels, simple important levels, horizontal levels, like on this chart, on this weekly chart on Bitcoin, for example, just map out what was levels defended and flip resistance, and that therefore you want to see defended if/when retested.
Yep.
These places can be locations where you want to start allocating if/when retested. So that's the first point of view. Like if we come back for these retests, you can try to position yourself in here, knowing that if we start closing back below, it's probably better to cut again.
Yep.
And the other way, on the upside, having also mapped out levels that, like this one, which I believe was a pretty pivotal level during the last bull and bear markets, is the same approach. If/when price starts finding acceptance above it, it probably means that you can flip into a more aggressive approach and start positioning higher if it means positioning higher. But then in terms of follow, so simply put, just zoom out a little bit. Don't get bullied by the market. Basically, the more you're prepared, the more you have plans for different kind of scenarios, the better chances you have to execute properly if/when it comes.
Yeah.
And most importantly, also, if it doesn't come, like, don't get yourself surprised if we just pump and never come for the retest. Have a plan for the other direction also. So that's the very basics, I would say, and I would imagine that most people are going to tell you that. What I would say is,
also, one thing you didn't mention is not purely trading. I think time is still on your side. I think CBS did it really well. He made a video that was like, you missed a 2-week rally, you didn't miss a bull market, right? And I think that's really important to mention too.
Look at this chart. The entire last bear market pretty much doesn't even exist with the price action we've had next. I mean, it's pretty much it's fine. And it's crypto. Even if you missed a 2 weeks rally on Bitcoin, it's perfectly fine. Like, for example, again, Pepe was not even a thing at the beginning of the year. Yeah. People had no idea they would rotate into AI coins before the beginning of last year and before ChatGPT went ham. There is always a new narrative. There will always be some new nonsense. But that means that if you look to allocate, you need to spend some time in the market, spend some time in the charts. As much as people like to hate on CT, I do believe that it's still the very best place when you pick the good people to follow, to get in touch with trends and narratives. Do not follow anyone blindly, of course, on CT, but it can help you, like we said, following people like Watt or like PC Principle. It can help direct your focus onto the good things. And with that being said, I also think that you shouldn't lose too much of your time trying to position yourself heavily into shitcoins who already went through a cycle.
Yep.
That doesn't mean you can't have exposure to some of them, like having exposure to Sol and ETH, for example, makes some sense. Link also, blah, blah, blah. But if you're looking for a more investment perspective and probably a more higher risk reward profile, I do believe that the best shitcoinery is still done on chain, but it has to be done with a much different perspective than trading. Like, for example, 100% of the shitcoinery I do on chain is just done with a sizing such as my stop loss is 0, basically.
Yeah.
Meaning that if I have an amount of dollar that I'm willing to lose on every trade I take, this is the size of my bags on chain, basically. And I do believe that if you're looking for a more degenerate high risk reward investment perspective, it's probably going to be done on chain. And I know that many people are probably going to say it's too dangerous, you're gonna get rugged, blah blah blah. Yeah, very likely you're gonna be true. But the truth is that you're not going to put the times 25 on Bitcoin. You're not going to put the times 25 on ETH, which is perfectly fine. You can make up for that by trading. But again, you're probably going to be spending all your days on the market, turn yourself in what Doc and I became, basically, which is fine, but it's not for everyone. I would say it's actually for very, 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 very few people, to be honest. Trading is definitely not for everyone. It's definitely not simple. So yeah, I would say map out on the majors, especially Bitcoin, as long as it's a Bitcoin-led rally. particularly. Try not to lose too much time positioning on shitcoins who already had a few cycles, unless you have narratives you want to stick behind and think have legs, which can be a Soul Redemption arc, which can be a Link, RWA narrative, whatever. But then I do believe that you're gonna need some time on on-chain shitcoinery. I do believe so.
Yeah. And to summarize, there's time, ladies and gentlemen. Don't panic. You have time. You can still make plans.
Yeah. Of
You
course,
haven't missed the boat. You haven't missed the train.
Oh yeah, you missed nothing. Like
Yeah.
seriously, it's 100% fine to be missing legs in the market. It's a good transition. Never believe or never trust anyone that tells you that the max pain is up. The max pain is never up. You would rather miss a leg than being late on it, in my opinion.
Yep.
And just zoom out, take your time. It's fine, mate. Like
Yep.
don't forget that 4 months ago or even a year ago, FTX just crashed. Everyone was expecting everything to go to zero with good reasons, to be honest.
It's kind of beautiful. We're literally at the 1-year anniversary of that. That was like
it's today and the next 3 days. But the what I'm trying to say is that I know people who have been losing everything in FTX and who have missed every single rallies on Bitcoin and yet made everything back and more and not even if they didn't made anything back. I know also some people who have been mostly trading shitcoins, missing every moves on Bitcoin this year and who are still doing fantastic.
Yep.
I know some people who decided to remain flat since November 2021. They didn't made a single money on the market ever since, but if they are buying back Bitcoin today, they are still up in Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. It's perfectly fine. Like the only thing that's gonna make you feel bad for missing a move is if you actually need it for living and or if you're focused on chasing clouds. If you don't care and if you only want to make money, it's 100% fine to miss these kind of moves.
Yeah, I think I have kind of the similar experience with some of my friends who kind of were skeptical going into this year. They missed the yearly open rally, they missed the USDC repeg rally, all these things, but they stayed active every day in the market. They're hungry, they're searching, even if they're missing moves, and they caught Unibot, right? And Unibot went insane. And I think, his portfolio probably outperformed mine because he was solely highly convicted in Unibot and it pulled 100x,
Yeah. Well, it's, and that 100%. And I also think that's why I mentioned shitcoinery and the fact that most of my bags had stop loss at zero and that it was probably a second good way of being active on the market. And I do believe that something that has been very nice this year is that we've had a lot of on-chain activity for a post FTX crash bear market, probably the hardest we've had in terms of cataclysmic events. Basically, with pretty much every big actors in the market ended up being scams and frauds and bankrupt. We actually had a return to the 101 shitcoinery and 101 degeneracy, and with people working on tools, either the very basics of memes or either tools for people to make better trades. What I mean is that it's, again, as I said, when you ask me about investing, the two trades that made me the most in shitcoin outside of the centralized exchanges trades, so if we don't count ING and things like this, are Pepe and Unibot. And there are two shitcoins I had no idea existed 6 months or 7 months ago.
Right.
So it just shows you that like missing a leg in the market, like crypto, and to be honest, every market's like everywhere something trending is trending, and you're gonna find an opportunity to make some off of it. But yeah, probably in any case, whether you trade on chain or you trade on sex, you're gonna need. It's not going to come at you easily. It's gonna take time. In any case, I think it's also important to be said. Like there is no easy wins. You're probably going to lose it all and have to do it again. Just want to warn.
It's the honest truth, though, right? It's the honest
truth.
Uncomfortable, but honest.
Look at this. You had Unibot. Another one that actually did fantastic this year was Ator. It's actually still pumping.
Oh man, I faded that the whole way, dude. I never got into Ator.
I have it since March. This one also.
Oh my god, that's so good. Look at that.
And it's comfy because when you have stop loss at zero, you just basically let things leave, and that's it basically.
Yeah. What a monster, man. Every opportunity I had to get into this coin, I was just kind of like distracted. So it's a complete incompetence on my end.
And the beauty is that it just respects the system.
Yeah.
Even on chain, look at this 13
Unbelievable.
EMA.
Unbelievable. Bet like that's the craziest trend I've seen this year, to be honest.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a nice one. It's a nice one.
Yeah.
And again, it's everywhere. I'm just coming back rapidly to that DXY example, the weekly DXY. But as you can see, it's once again big trending environment. Trend broke, came for the retest from below, filled the gap to 100 MA, filled the gap to 200 EMA, pico bottom into 15 weeks of green or something. It's just a nice thing to look at on pretty much every assets and time frames.
And for anyone watching this and probably doesn't trade, they're probably going, "Wow, this is the gold mine. This is the easiest system in the world."
Oh no, yeah, not at all.
I'm just gonna buy this retest. It's gonna be so easy. But let me tell you from experience, it takes a little bit of time.
Oh yeah. Again, I'm using this example from this week's where like the trend was lost into reclaim. That's like just to show that it's. If I made it sound like it was the golden thing, I retract what I said 100%. It's just an interesting way to smoothen the chart, understand the trend you are in. But in the end, it's just a combination of horizontal levels and a couple of moving averages. But in the end, it's just going to be you clicking the button, not the system. So yeah, no, it's a simple approach with zero alpha, but when it's respected a little bit with some good feeling to know on what to focus on, it can be quite effective.
Yeah. Well said. Kind of off topic, but I wanted to ask, have any of your normie friends hit you up yet and been like, "Hey, what's going on with Bitcoin? Is it back?" Has anyone asked you? Because for me, not a single one, and they all know that I'm in the market.
Yeah, we don't speak much about markets or our jobs in general with the mates, with the homies. When we do,
but surely your friends and family know, hey, Pierre does this for a living or whatnot.
Yeah, everyone knows. No, everyone knows. It's just that, I've had a couple of questions asking how things were going, but without a clue that it was actually doing nice.
Yeah.
Like I think the last time was 3 weeks ago or something. A friend of mine asked me how things were going for the market, and when I told him we were back in the 30s, to high 20s at least, he was actually quite surprised. He was surprised in the sense to know that it went this high this rapidly after FTX. But most of the questions I've had recently were updates on the FTX case, more than anything. People asking me, is the cunt in jail already or not, basically.
Yeah.
And he's going.
So it's like we're back, but we're not so fucking back yet. There's still,
it's fine. But it makes sense. I mean, that's something also people tend to forget is that most of them, and I think it's an important thing to say also, is that when you come trade the market, you need to lower your expectations because you need to understand that periods where the market is going absolutely nonsense, periods where you have Elon on SENL or SNL, I don't know what's the name of the show. I think it's this one, Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live.
Talking about Doge or FTX buying back stadiums or whatever. This actually is probably 1/10 of the time you're going to spend on the market.
Yeah.
It's a very short window of moment and things are absolutely idiotic and euphoric. But the truth is that the standard and the normal time spent on the market is the boring one. And it's the moment where things are more sideways and probably down than the opposite. Sideways more than down, because in the end, everything goes up. But it's important for people when they come into the market to know to lower their expectations and to understand that and that's also why I think a trending following system is interesting, because it's also often a reality check. Like you're super excited about a coin moving, like I'm going to use ETH BTC as example. You're very excited about a thing moving, but the truth is that when you go on the daily, it's still a daily downtrend. It's a good reality check. And it's also important, again, to understand that the windows where the market is going absolutely are probably 1/10 of the time you spend on the market. So you need to know not to get wrecked for the 90% rest of the time, basically.
The ETH BTC example is so nice because for me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, we're getting those weekend ETH BTC rallies. Like we get these really nice 1 or 2 day Saturday pumps, and our altcoins go crazy. Like everyone's printing out the ass right now on altcoins on the weekends, and I go, we're so concerned. Oh, did we miss this? Did we did miss that? This allocation, whatever. And we look at ETH BTC on the daily or the weekly, and you're like, that looks disastrous. Like
Yeah, it's fine.
one day that trend is going to reverse and the money is going to flow into altcoins, and that's really what we want to be positioned for one day.
And the
And
latest, the better. Like
yeah,
the
exactly.
latest we get a proper Bitcoin to shitcoin rotation, the higher on Bitcoin, the better it is in the market in general.
Yeah.
I know it's a very boomerish talk, even just the fact that to be looking at BTC pairs, but again, it's a Bitcoin-led rally. But the truth is that it's been
beautiful.
it's been helping. I do believe that the latest we have the rotation, the more people are actually a bit like Solana and the recent moves we've seen. One of the reasons Solana has been a great mover and a great one to trade was also because people were so pessimist about it and quite talking in absolutes on the fact that it would never come back, blah, blah, blah. It's just the same thing with shitcoins in general. The more people fight it, the more eventually it comes back violently in their face on a very sexy pump and dump way. And that whenever they finally submit, they actually get bite and turns into Bitcoin Maxi, and all they do is podcast discussing about how Bitcoin is great.
Yeah, I mean, that's been actually, it's funny you mentioned that. It's been a phenomenal strategy for me this year, is just kind of buying and longing the coins that, perplexes CT. The more they're fighting about it, the more I feel like it's going to rage pump. And Solana's been one of my favorite coins for that this year.
Yeah, I think that's also something that's fun to play with, being a bit of a contrarian, because, and especially in bear markets where people turn into very pessimistic people, they're gonna fight every kind of trends and movements and blah blah blah. Instead of just the truth is that that's something I never understood. The crypto tribalism
it's very funny.
is something I never understood, because it's such a net negative to be only focused on one ecosystem, one shitcoin. Like recently, I've seen so many people fight about ETH or Solana, and I was like, you do realize you can buy both, or buy one, buy the other, and don't like. Why do you care if someone's actually buying something or not? Like, it's something I never understood.
They make their entire personality one coin.
Yeah, and I mean it's fine, because I understand in a way that it's being part of a community, and people prefer that way. They are not traders. There are people who invest and believe in what they invest, and it's perfectly fine with it. I mean, you can be an XRP maxi for all you want, that I don't care at all. I mean, it's your time spent. But to come and fight every day on the internet, where and on Twitter, that's the thing. It's on Twitter. It's probably the place where you can argue about everything, and you're never gonna make the person on the other side of the screen change their mind.
Yeah,
it's not like you are going to change someone's mind. It's not like you are going to make them sell their ETH to buy Sol.
yeah.
Not, and even if they do, why do you care?
So
like it makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I do believe that it's something that it's holding back a lot of people. How many Bitcoin maxis have been in this market since 2012 and could have made generational money and lose? Probably they could have lose much more by being in shitcoins, but without being full shitcoin lads, they could also have invested a little bit of their chips in ETH ICOs or things like this, and have a much more impact in their own community today with the money they made, instead of being like only negative to the rest of the markets.
Yeah.
So it's something I've never understood. As someone who trades shitcoins, it seems like such a net negative to be only focused on one ecosystem, when you can actually play
and it's
everywhere. Like, it makes no sense.
And it's so endemic to crypto, because you don't hear people in the stock market go, "Oh, I bought Apple. I'm never going to buy Amazon."
Yeah, it's true. You have these kind of communities. However, in TradFi world, you have like a strong Tesla stonks holder narrative. You had a strong Reddit forums and things like this. So you kind of have this involved. That I guess it makes sense when you think about it, because there is money involved, meaning that whenever people finally press the green button, it takes the investment to a whole new level for them, and it's perfectly fine. I mean, I don't care, to be honest, but I just don't get it in crypto, and I don't get it for people who are active in crypto and trading this market, and it's actually their job. Why do you care, mate? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
But it's
But
fine if I'm trading against them, it's fine.
but so kind of on the same topic here, like we're talking kind of like this socialization of trading, which has kind of never existed in the history of markets. It's really new, I'd say, within the last 10 years. And I think me and you are on the same side here. I kind of love it. I kind of love that I can go on CT and chat shit with the boys. I kind of love that I can go on Discord and share ideas with people. I think there's a huge benefit to that too, because like
Yeah.
in crypto, there's so much going on. Like one person can't dominate the entire market and keep up to date with everything. So you kind of like use this socialization of crypto to really help you out. But do you think that there's a like cost benefit analysis that you need to do with the socialization and kind of like tune out noise? Because there's times like now where the ticker spam is crazy and the cringe
Yeah.
posting is crazy and the clout chasing is crazy. And I feel like it can psychologically mess with a lot of people. So I feel like, you know, you're someone who's been on crypto Twitter forever and you have the Haven. So there's got to be a lot of noise around you as well. Was there a moment or something that you can point to where you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do when the market is volatile. I'm going to like lock it in. I'm going to tune this, this and that out, and I'm going to focus on myself. Do you have any kind of advice for people along those lines?
Well, yeah. Well, actually, I do believe that the longer you are on CT, the less noise you have around you, because the more you know who you want to follow, the more you know who you should be taking posts seriously or not, and you have a more curated following list. For example, I have very little noise on my Twitter. For example, like most of the people I follow are either traders or here for a long time. The later are not giving much talks anymore, but the first one are usually in line with most that I do, like you, for example, like Awawat, like PCP, like Krina. So not a lot of noise. I don't know if it's something that I naturally built over the years, but I do not feel like there is. I do not feel like there is a lot of noise, to be honest. I do feel like I actually was going to say the opposite. I was going to say that it's probably one of the biggest advantage of being here for some time is that you can naturally detect who is actually providing interesting informations or not, kind of feel instantly the paid promotions even when they are not disclosed, these kind of things, if you see what I mean.
Yep.
And actually, that's also one of the best thing with the Haven for me, is that I come in there every day to do my daily analysis of updates on the ongoing trades and things like this, which takes me some time. But I know that there is like a shitload of people in the market discussions who are going to be discussing the market, discussing trends, narratives, and it kind of already filters for me. Also on stream, for example, when I do chat requests, based on on what people ask me to chat for them, it can like filter out some setups out of others. Um, but I do feel. But to come back to the first point of like socializing finance, or I don't know how you say it, but I know for a fact that if it wasn't for CT, I would have probably given up and I would not be here anymore after
I agree with you.
2018, like 100%. There is one people on CT who actually probably saved, that's a big word, but saved my trading career and time spent in crypto. It's Cryptunes. I don't know if you know who Tunes is. He's from the last like 2017 2018 class.
I don't think
But
so.
basically, but basically in 2019, I think early 2019, when the market was properly dead, I'm talking to you about the time where um, where you had only BTC pairs, and you only had you couldn't short shit coins, you couldn't do anything. There was not much happening on chain. The only thing you could do was play spot, and whenever things were going down, you had basically nothing to do. And I just lost pretty much everything of my folio. And yeah, Tunes basically someday showed up and made a group of conversation with people like Loma, Krilin, people I actually still work with today. And for the next 3 years, we basically spent 10 hours per day in that group chat, talking every day about the market, comparing system, sharing plays, sharing opportunities, things like this. So I think it's really important on that part. I also believe that sharing and having a public journal, whether it's on Twitter or on the Haven, is something that has helped me. Probably if I had to pick one game changer for me, one thing that made me a better trader through the years, it's having my trades on the outside, and people reading the fund process and in any ways kind of judging the setups you take, basically.
Yep.
And 100% what made me a better trader is coming every day on Twitter, sharing my thought process, sharing what I do, the journal of it, the struggles, the wins, the losses. And you take the risk of being wrong every day, basically.
Yes.
Uh,
Yep.
but it's fine whenever you are. I think that's something I often say. Having a public journal has helped me in two ways. The first one is to pick much more carefully trades I'm taking, meaning that, do I really want to take this setup knowing that it's not A plus setup, while I could probably find something better? Okay, so I'm just moving on to this one. While if I was not publicly sharing anything, probably I would have given it a go anyway. Like, let's try it. It's one air in any way. And the second part is also that the more you share, the more you take the risk of being wrong, the less you care. The less you care of being wrong. And the
Yep.
less you care being wrong, the better of a trader you become, in my opinion, because you take that part of being wrong out of the equation and you only focus on how much money I'm going to make or lose. And it sounds like the 101 basics advice one can say when trading the market, but it comes from someone like me who's very, again, mid-curvy. It can be a very big breakthrough. Like, stop caring about being wrong or right. Just care about if that hits the target and all the stop loss.
Yep.
Here exactly I'm going to end up with in my money, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I do believe that city is an incredible place. I think that it's a very resilient place also, with everything we've seen through the last few years. People we trusted ended up being scams. It's actually a community that is trying to cure itself by denouncing scammers on a daily basis. That can be very tribal also, of course, but I do believe that City is an incredible place for trading. I do believe I wouldn't be here anymore if it wasn't for City and for the friends I've made along the way. I do believe that public journaling is key, even if there is no one to listen to you. I have plenty of people following me on Twitter, but it wasn't always the case, and I've been always sharing what I do and think about the market. And even if there is not many people to listen to you or read to you, I think it's an interesting process to go through, in my opinion. And yeah, that's all I have to say about social finance.
I think, man, that answer couldn't have been better, and I have a big shit-eating grin on my face because almost everything you said is my exact experience. Like, I was gonna be like, oh, this is what and then you just said everything for me. So I don't really want to say it again, but yeah, man, my experience is the exact same. Like, I was looking online for like alpha. I was like, how do I learn about crypto? Where do I learn? And you start with, YouTube, and that's nonsense. You go to Reddit and it's nonsense. You don't know where to go. And I just came to Twitter for news. Like, oh, this is the fastest place for news. And luckily, I found CT. And it was like you said, over years of curating your follower list, you end up finding the list with the least noise. And I follow like less than 200 people. And for me, it's not like personal. Like, if I unfollow you, it's not like I don't like you. It's just kind of like I'm using it as business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes
like
sense.
And we can chat shit all day in Discord. Like it's not right. And I wouldn't have found you. I wouldn't have found CBS. I wouldn't have found XO. I wouldn't have found Maine and all these incredible thought processes that you guys, like, you're putting out the work, you have the experience, you're sharing your thoughts, and we learn from it. And I kind of did the same thing. I was just a reply guy with no followers and nothing. And I'm like, I'm going to use Twitter just to share ideas and shoot it down to the void. No one's following me. No one's listening. I'm just throwing charts out there. These are my trades, win or loss. And what's funny is, like, I tell everyone this, if you go back for a few years, you'll see how stupid I was. Like, you'll see
me too.
and you'll see my dumb thought process, and you'll see back in 2021, I'm using like log charts and
Yeah,
triangles and stuff like
yeah,
that. So
same.
it's
Yeah,
it's a
exact same.
funny process, but I think it's yeah, exactly, the triangles and everything.
The bull flag.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, you said
Yeah,
everything that I wanted to say there. I just wanted to mirror that. I think I
but
think the
it's
socialization is beautiful.
I think it's interesting because the more you talk with people from city, the more you realize it's a general statement about city. I mean, at least if you're amongst those people who are not, I'm going to use, I don't know, I'm not going to use the word because maybe it's bad, but if you're not a C word with people on city, if you're not this kind of lad, if you're not perma negative, if you're just here to shitpost and share ideas, it's gonna be a great experience. But if you come to be if all you do is come at people in replies to talk shit or things like this, of course it's going to be a negative experience. But if you're not a C word and if you're not a scammer and if you're just here to interact with people, it's a very great way to. I actually think there is probably not a second better place on the Western internet to grow financially speaking, like not necessarily in terms of growing your folio, but can you name another community of people who are between 16 years old and 35 and who are as financially literate as we are? Like, I'm not saying that we have probably a vast amount of idiot people, but that's a general statement for the entire place. But that's
It,
something
it
I always say. Like, do you know, when I always say that when I compare myself to my best friends IRL, the truth is that even they are smart, even if they are all smart lads who made it in life, comfy as hell, etc., plenty of good things for them. But the truth is that they don't have the financial, how do you say that, culture that we have. Like, it's dumb, it's not much, but being able to navigate market and understand market moves. I mean, we are trading shitcoins now, but what tells you that in 20 years we are not still in the market? We have like a new narrative, new technology or whatever, and all this time spent in your 20s trading the market, it's going to be valuable. Like, when I talk with my friends who work in finance, who are working at Fidelity, GS, and other places that can be considered as the best places, and if you work there, you kind of are a killer in your field, and who are absolutely clueless about the market. When I talked about them about trades and size we trade and things like this, they're like, mate, I'm not even trading that, or I don't even know what you're talking about when you
yeah,
talk about limit market executions, when you talk. And I'm like, dude, you did 10 years of study to do that. I did 3 years of city basically.
yeah.
And it's
Also,
maybe I'm romanticizing things a little bit. Of course, I'm French and I like to
no,
exaggerate
I
a
don't
little
think you're
bit.
wrong at all. I think you're right
But
on the
I
money.
Yeah, but I do believe that if you put aside all the negativity, because we love to be shitting on communities and market, and we love to shit on shit coins, blah blah blah, because it's fun. It's a good shit posting, and I think shit posting is important to not take yourself too seriously. It's also
Yep.
important as a trader in this market. I don't think it's just something funny. I think it's important to shit post because it's a good way not to fall in love with your coins, but that's another subject. Outside of that, city is just a wonderful place to learn, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, also the benefit is crypto. I think you mentioned this earlier in the pod, and you were like, you get so many years of experience in 1 year of crypto. Like,
Yeah.
this is like 20 years of TradFi experience in the last 2 years in this market. If you were around 2021 till today, I mean, the amount of experience that you've gained is like 15 years in TradFi, I would say.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Well, it's simple. SPX probably had one proper beer market in the last 15 years, 10 years, two with the COVID one, but it was pretty much V-shaped anyway. I'm probably talking shit. Probably had some worse times than that, of course.
2008 was like the last one.
But I mean, if you look back, a lot of people who have been trading stonks pretty much have been trading up only markets, and they are very right for it. They are the ones doing it right. Why would you bother in places where you have multiple cycles in 5 years when you can just trade up only? But what I'm saying is that, yeah, again,
They have
it's
lives and they have patience. That's
and
why.
again, it's probably not it's 100% not a global statement. Of course, it's a personal statement and observation from what I've lived through the years. But it's true that when I talk about trading with mates of me who are working in TradFi and for big firms, they seem clueless. Like when at the end in November 2021, most of them were still aping ESG companies just at the end of the rate hikes from just at the beginning of rate hikes from the Fed, for example. And I was like, mate, I'm the dumb crypto trader around the table. I'm the only one telling you guys this probably should be a good time to pack it up.
Yep.
And it's crazy, but it's something many of the people I work in crypto have been telling me the same thing from their experience.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that the psychological aspect is also underrated. We undergo so much stress in these markets through the volatility that I think people in TradFi just never get to experience that. And we're more resilient for it, for sure.
Good for them. They have sane mental health then.
No. You don't want to know how bad it's been for all of us this last year with sleep and anxiety and stress and everything like that. There's that famous meme of like, oh, this is John 25 crypto trader.
Crypto for the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's all of us, man.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. But it's fine. I mean, it's the market we choose to trade. That's also something important. I've seen a lot of people for the past 2 years complaining every day about the market, saying it was shit to trade. And every time I was like, mate, nothing forces you to be here. You can just take another market to trade and or go somewhere else and do something else. There is nothing holding you back, mate. Just go find something else to do. The market's gonna keep moving without you.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
No one's forcing you to stick around, of course.
Yeah.
But for the people that do stick around, you get an infinite amount of wisdom and experience and skill. I think like my friend was saying something funny the other day, and he's like, you buy it's a bullish hack, and it's like a bearish product development. And it's like you only learn that in crypto of like, you're supposed to buy the hacks and supposed to sell, when they release a new product. You would never get that otherwise.
Oh, but that's a positive news. Why are you selling? Because that's a positive news.
Yeah. I mean, one of my best trades this year, I was telling my father and he couldn't believe it. And I was like, yeah, I bought Coinbase the day that the SEC sued Coinbase. And then I sold Coinbase the day that XRP won the case against Coinbase or
SEC.
The SEC. Yeah. And it doesn't make sense to people that are outside these markets that is what you're supposed to do. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes no sense for most people, to be honest. But it works until it doesn't, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we are taking a lot of risk at the end of the day.
Yeah, we have a much bigger and much higher risk profile than most other market participants, just by the platform we are using, to be honest. Because you can be a godlike traders for 15 years in crypto, and one day you keep your funds on an exchange and wake up without anything.
Yeah, man.
That's a very positive and optimistic thing to say.
You know what's crazy is anytime I talk to a trader, like time just flies. I don't know if you've realized we've already been talking for almost an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's
we can wrap it up there. I do have I have a list and I have like 8 other questions to ask you, but we can probably save it for another time if you're willing to come back on and we can chat in the future again.
100%, man. Whenever you can and want. I'm going to be traveling a little bit for the end of the year, but after that, I'm 100% free.
For sure, man. We'll pick it back up then. But before we leave, I always ask all my guests one last question. Do you have any imparting wisdom outside of markets? Can be on life, happiness, health, love, anything. I know I have to put you on the spot.
That's
any lessons from 2023 outside of crypto that you want to share?
Make kids.
What's that?
Kids. Have some kids.
Have some kids?
If you can have some kids, probably going to change your life.
I think I've heard you mention that a few times on CT. You have like a nephew or a niece that you've been looking after?
Yeah, I've got 2 nephews this year. From one, my sister and my brother, not together, of course, but no, I mean, in some part of France, that's something you need to precise. But yeah, I mean, it does feel like they are the happiest people I've ever seen on earth since they have their kids.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So I would say that the lesson for this year is probably this one for me, at least.
Yeah. So the next chapter of Pierre's life is to settle down, find a wife, and have some kids.
Oh, I already have. I just need to make some kids, but first
Okay. All right. Congratulations. Get to work.
But first, I want to milk the market and enjoy a couple of ski season first.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We just got our first snow.
Yeah,
Here
same.
in
At
California.
least serious snow. Yeah, we just got some first serious snow in the Alps, and it's finally November weather outside, because it was like 30 degrees Celsius. Sorry for you. I know it's Fahrenheit, but basically it was hot still for the last 3 weeks. But we finally have plenty of snow kicking in the Alps. So I'm going to Guadeloupe for 2 weeks, and then I come back for a full-blown ski season, of course.
Unbelievable, man. I'm excited. I'm
Oh,
excited.
yeah, me
I hope the
too. I
market
can't
gives
wait.
a few weeks so we can just ski and not worry about markets.
Oh, yeah, man, I cannot wait. Either give me an exit so that I can just pack it up and go skiing with the boys, or give me a sustainable trend that I can just check a couple of times per day and move on.
Yeah, we'll pray to the
Please.
market gods.
Please.
Pray to the snow gods and pray to the market gods.
100%. 100%.
All right, Pierre. I appreciate you coming on again, and
With
we'll
pleasure.
leave it there. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.